everybody, welcome to the Pagan Perspective. My name is Angel and I'm your Wednesday subs week's host. I have no idea why I did that. I'm just cruising on low energy and I'm starting to get this week we're talking about spells. So there's a few questions in here, so I'm just gonna tick off as I go. What were your first spells and what kind did you start out with? My first spells were, I find that people who start out practicing want to dive right into spells because it's freaking cool. And it's fascinating and there's so much to it and there's so much to learn and there's so many different ones. So it's very, very cool. Now the first ones I started out with were money, employment, self-love, and I can't remember the other one, and they mediocre worked, and so I don't know what made me decide to do the next one I'm going to tell you about, because the other ones hadn't worked perfectly or at all. So I decided in my early practice to do a binding spell. Now, I didn't fully understand the mass of that until much later. But I knew I had to go into it with the most purest heart and purest of intent. And it was a binding spell for somebody I cared about who was trying to leave a relationship that was volatile. So I did a binding spell on the person that would let them leave the relationship and bound them to not hurt themselves or anybody else. And I was very fortunate that it worked really well. That said, when I had mentioned it to somebody who was a tenured witch later, they were very aghast of it and I couldn't understand why they were shocked. And then they explained it to me and then I realized. So I've been on this path for 20 something years and I've only done a binding spell twice. I don't recommend it to new practitioners and it's not something that I look to do. It is a very last resort and fortunately I've only had to do it twice. Hopefully I never have to do it again. But those are the spells I started with. And again, the little ones worked kind of here and there. Some didn't work at all. And the big one I decided to do completely worked. I don't know if that was luck, but it is what it is. So then the next question is, if your practice does not include spellcraft, talk about what is central in your path instead, or what you think of spellcraft, or maybe what kind you would like to do if you were to do such a thing. Okay. I found, interestingly enough, that when people start out practicing, they do a lot of spellcrafting and are interested, again, because it's pretty cool. As people get more, become more legacy witches, I find they do less, but it's not that they're not doing magic, they just kind of spread it around in charms and talisman and witch bottles and little things around their house, little altars, little fairy things, and those are very magical, and they kind of embody your abode with magic. So, you kind of sit inside your magical realm, and I think for me, I don't feel like I need to do magic when I'm in my home. That said, I do want to do some spells. I have some in mind, but the other thing is when I do spellcrafting, excuse me, lemon water's not sitting well with me. When I do spellcrafting, I tend to like very elaborate spells. And maybe that's why I don't do them that often. But I spend a lot of time, usually weeks, um, you know, really choosing my words, colors, what herbs I'm going to use. I'm going to create my own incense. I always do that. Um, Sometimes I create my own anointing oil. Generally I use amber, but sometimes I feel like using something different. You know, I'm very specific about what candles. I meditate on what colors. And then I decide what type of, you know, ritual I'm going to practice. Either the typical calling the quarters, or am I going to do something more of the druid kind of path where they don't do that. So I spend a lot of time contemplating, planning, and meditating. There are people, witches that can do spells on the fly, and that's awesome. I'm not one of them. Well, I don't want to say I can't. I don't enjoy that because I'm the type of person that is a planner anyways in my life. And very detailed and very focused on things. So I tend not to do well in those situations, or don't feel well about my crafting. I'm not confident about it. Even if it works, I don't feel confident. That said, I do want to do some more spells. I have not done that much lately, not because I don't want to, but I am a full-time student, and I work full-time. I'm a full-time wife and a full-time beekeeper, and I have lots of pets and, you know, family, friends. So I have a lot going on that doesn't afford me the time that I used to have where I didn't have all these other activities. I have had the summer off, and I don't start school back until September, but I've not really done anything as far as spellcrafting. I have recharged some crystals. I have cleaned out some areas. I planted some fruit trees. Special. And that's pretty much it, you know. But again, I do want to do some spells soon. But I tend to get a little bit more... I get the spell tingles in the fall, and that makes me really want to get into things. I go through my herb cabinet, see what I need to, you know, refresh, because I like making things with herbs, and I do a lot of purging in the fall, which you would think I would in the spring, but I'm a little backwards witch. So anyways, yeah, spellcrafting, I enjoy it. I usually do a very elaborate layout. I print it out. I'm very detailed about it. So I don't do it that often. I rarely do. But yeah, that's it. I think that's all the questions. Yeah, I guess it's what kind do I think I would like to do? I don't know. I mean, I don't really feel the need to do the types of spells I did in the beginning. Not because they're not good spells, but, you know, my reflection on life is different. When I was younger, you know, money was very central to my happiness, or what I thought was my happiness, and what could help me attain my happiness. And now that I'm older, much older, I realize that happiness is a different type of monetary, not monetary, it's a different type of thing. It's not money, it's not riches, and it's not having a million friends and being popular and whatever else. It's something very, very different. And I think that everybody changes as they go through being in their practice, and they, find things that work differently, and some things they don't do anymore. I don't need a love spell, or a self-love spell, or an employment spell, or a money spell. So I don't do those anymore, and I don't do spells for other people. Well, I've done a couple spells for other people with them helping with it, and them completely okay with everything that I was doing. But I don't do that often, because again, that's very dicey with karma, at least what I believe. And so I don't practice those kind of things. But I do want to do some spells with the Morgan, because she is now my goddess, has been for about a year now. And I do want to do some work with her in the fall. So that would be the only thing I could think of. Okay, I'm rambling now, so I'm going to cut it off. Anyways, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I love when you guys like the videos, and until next month, I will chat with you later. Have a great rest of the week, and blessed be. Bye!